Hello and welcome to. We've got some kind of
Sorry, that was me.
weird sound. Welcome to our History Day weekly coaching session. Today, we're going to be working specifically on helping you write those pesky thesis statements and hopefully turn them into something like really, really fun. Hello, it's so good to see everyone in the chat. Please start chiming in by saying hello to us, letting us know who's here, what your topics are today, because they're going to be really important as we start sculpting our theses. The more of you who tell me what you're working on, you'll have that topic in our head, and we might be able to help you write your own theses today. So it's really exciting to see all of you already coming in. For those of you who are joining us that aren't actually at Ray Wiltsey with us, my name is Angela Stevens, and we are the coaches at History Day, and this is
Miss Populous.
Miss Pop. And my expertise is in performance and podcast. Pop's expertise is an exhibit, and we're learning documentary together 1 year at a time. But as a historian, I absolutely love History Day, you guys, because it's so great to deal with our theses and get us thinking about historic rigor. So today we're going to talk about writing our thesis. Hi, Alex. Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Abner. Mm-hmm. Do say hi in the chat, because if you're in my class and you want your talkies tomorrow or whatever goodie I bring you, you have to put your name in or I won't bring it to you. So just a reminder, History Day is a year-long opportunity for us to pick one topic and explore that topic in detail. And the culmination of our project can be either a wonderful performance, a live performance that can be up to 10 minutes long with costumes and set and detailed analysis, a documentary where we make a movie, a website where we design details on a website, and a beautiful exhibit. What are the dimensions on an exhibit? Because I know Alex does exhibit.
Mm-hmm. Well, the baseline has to be no more than 30 by 40, and it cannot be exceeding the height of 6 feet.
Okay. And it sits like on like a counter on a table. And so then it gets straight up 6 feet. So it's almost rectangular in shape in that way. So it goes like really high. So we make these really detailed exhibits. Did we forget? Oh, and in California, we have podcasts. Yeah. And what all of History Day has in common is that you want to pick your own unique thing in history, your own story that you want to tell, and learn details and present an original historical argument. So your job isn't just to tell the story, but to look at different perspectives of what happened. And as you learn the different perspectives of what happened, you see that history is unique and rich, and it has not only cause and effect, but it has different ways to interpret it. And that's what makes writing a thesis so beautiful and rich, but also kind of challenging. So the first rule of thesis writing is that you will keep rewriting your thesis. So we write a preliminary thesis at the beginning of the year, and that guides our research. And as we learn more, guess what? We change what we're doing. We make it better. We edit, we enhance. So just because we get our first draft of our thesis done doesn't mean it'll probably be the one that we take to state or nationals. The one that we go to nationals with will probably be revised as our research gets deeper and richer and more interesting. So the place to start, Amanda, do you want to add anything? Sorry.
No, I think you're doing a great job.
So as we start, I want to kind of back up and think, okay, before I even start my thesis, like, what do I need to know? And the most important thing, every year to know for National History Day is what that year's theme is, because the theme needs to guide your topic. So if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I really, really want to research the Guatemalan genocide. I'm super interested in the Guatemalan genocide, or I'm really interested in IDEA. I think IDEA is such an interesting law. It totally makes life better for people who have disabilities. Or if you love NASCAR, if any one of those things might be you, which in the chat, I think maybe some of you, right? Then we want to think about, how do those topics then link into the theme itself? So I want to do a little quick reminder. Hi, Isabella. Hi, Lily. About what our theme is. And I want to show you some images to make you think about the theme in a different way. So I'm going to pull those up for just a second. Again, we'd love to have you, if you want, put more details about your topic if you'd like. If not, don't worry about it. If you want to keep that secret, that's fine too. Give me just a second to. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Let's try a different one. Oh, goodness, Mrs. Stevens. Sorry, you guys. Let me try a different one. Where is it? Oh my goodness, you guys. I have it up, but it's not coming. Hold on.
I was like, if you need to, you can send it to me and I can try to put it up.
I think I just need to reopen it. Okay, there it is. Sorry, you guys. I just got back from the doctor when we got home and I was like hurrying, which is not an excuse, but it's just the truth. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I went into our friend Canva and I typed in graphic images and I had Canva show me what is revolution, because we are in the 2025-2026 season and our theme is revolution, reaction, and reform. So before we can really get into our research, we need to know how our topic is revolutionary. And so what I thought was interesting is I picked the most popular images from revolution and I put them up in front of us today. So you can see fists pumping into the air. You can see a hammer and a sickle. I wonder if anyone in the chat knows what that revolution was. You can see people holding flags and cheering. That was there. The one in the middle, I think, is either supposed to be Thomas Jefferson or Thomas Paine, right here from the United States, his very own revolution. The hammer to the either the Pope hat or the crown hat, the king saying, no more tyranny or no more royalty. And then the next image that I thought was so fun was this image of a car. And so all of these are different images that Canva said were the most popular for revolution. So I thought, based on the images that we see on our screen, what does this tell us about what revolution is? So Pop, you're going to talk to me. What do you think when you see this?
Well, I like seeing all the different interpretations of what revolution can mean. So, for example, the revolution of the car, being able to go ahead and change transportation for everyone for years to come. So that looks really cool. Then also we have over onto the right side of your Canva, you have the people with the flags, and they look like they're ready to go into pretty much battle or just to stand up for something. So I like the visualization of what we have of revolutions, just because I think whenever we hear of revolution, we think of just violence or aggression, and it can mean a whole bunch of different other things than that.
I would argue that the car might be the most powerful symbol of revolution, because if you think about terms of revolution, not as a noun, but a verb, it revolutionizes, it changes. It's not a small change. It's not like she dyed her hair. That's revolutionary. No. Maybe if I shaved it bald and convinced all my friends to shave it bald, then we might start a revolution. But whatever it is, it needs to be a meaningful change in the way we do something. So with cars, we used to go on foot or with horse and buggy, which of course would still be the way I would want to go every morning. But cars drastically change the way we transport ourselves, as do planes, right? And so just the idea that we now can take cars everywhere, and we built international highway systems, and we can move so quickly, and we can spread out from our families and still see each other, gives us this revolution, this drastic change, this radical change in the way we live our lives. We live our lives differently because of the invention of the car. Just like the cell phone would be a great topic, or internet would be a great topic, or Zoom or YouTube. YouTube kind of revolutionized the way that news works. People are now interacting with information in a way that they never have before. And so when you look at social media, that would be an example of something that's truly revolutionary, because it changed the way people get their information. But to Pop's point, what you usually think of is like the United States Revolution, where we overthrow King George and we created our own constitution of the, for the people, by the people. Or you think of violence, the sickle and the hammer is, I think people think of the Russian Revolution, and they think of the violence between when they killed all the Romanov family. They took them into the basement, they killed everyone, even the children, and then they had a very violent overthrow of their own government. And actually, the Russian Revolution is fascinating because it didn't just go from the Romanovs straight to the Lenin government, to the communists, but there was actually a provisional government that was really interesting. It was a democracy. And then the whites and the reds had a whole civil war, and a whole bunch of people died between the whites and the reds in understanding even what socialism or communism were. And so when you do your historic argument, you're looking deeper at the revolution. What is the part that changed? So let's talk a little bit about some of the ones we have in the chat. So with the Guatemalan genocide, what is the revolution? Is it the people trying to overthrow the government? Is it what is the radical change in how things were? So same thing with NASCAR. What's the radical change there? Why do people go? How does that change our life? What is about NASCAR that changes the way we experience the world? And it's important that it turns. Like when you think about a revolution, right? The word evolution is kind of in the middle, which means scientifically kind of two things, right? You're revolving like a planet revolves, right? Or spins or turns. And then you're evolving, which means you're getting better and better and better. And so it's got this kind of baked in idea in the etymology. And etymology is a fancy way of understanding where the word comes from, the word itself's history, that talks about both this incremental getting better and then this radical shift in things. So the first thing when you write your thesis, everybody right now in your own notes, the best thing you can do if you have a slideshow you started for us is you can make a slide in your slideshow where you're analyzing the topic, and you're going to write down some bullet points or some ideas about how your topic is revolutionary. So how does your topic change things? So for example, if you're doing IDEA, I know somebody in the chat is doing IDEA. Before IDEA, people who had hearing impairment, people who had vision problems, people who have cognitive issues were denied basic access to education, to buildings. People in wheelchairs wouldn't even be able to get in and out of facilities. So that was like a drastic change. So when you think about your topic, you go, it revolutionized what? How did NASCAR change the way we think about things, right? Or the women of Juarez. Let's get into that a little bit. How does that revolutionize? Well, before the women of Juarez, women just lived on their plantations, they worked on their farms, and the revolutionary part was them having to go to the factories. And they were forced off their haciendas, and they had to go into these towns where they would begin to work. So women's work was revolutionized. They couldn't stay home anymore. They couldn't just stay at their family's farm, their hacienda. They had to now go out into the workforce. The reaction to them going into the workforce is that hundreds of them started disappearing. They started getting murdered. They started having horrible things happen. And then, of course, that led to the reform, which is actions to try to keep those women safe as they now enter the workforce. So there you see revolution, reaction, reform. One thing leads into the other. So it might be that the Guatemalan genocide is a revolution by the people trying to kill the Mayans. And then what is the reaction? The reaction might be the Mayans fighting back, them fleeing, them asking for help. And then the reform is people coming in finally to save the day and to stop genocide from happening there again. So I want to go to reform, and I want to show you the same thing. Pop, this is so funny because this is exactly what it pulled up. Can you see it?
Yeah.
It's so sciencey, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So would you tell everyone what these symbols, like what you think, what is first impression about these symbols for reaction for you?
Well, we're doing some chemistry, so that would probably be right up the alley of reaction. Usually whenever we talk about chemistry, there's going to be a reaction happening, especially if you mix two chemicals or any kind of compounds together. So I see people are wearing glasses in these photos, so I'm glad. But in terms of the reaction, it's going to have something as occurring because of the change, something's going to happen. So we need to go ahead and pay attention exactly to, is it going to be a certain kind of reaction in terms of physical, or is there going to be maybe an odor or things like that? What kind of reaction are we talking about?
Awesome. So it's pretty simple. If Pop punches me in the face, I'm going to react. Okay. So it's going to be that I'm going to be like scream and fall back. Am I going to black out and hit her back? I don't know. I train wild horses. You guys know that. My horses do crazy things. Sometimes reactions are subconscious. There is one time my horse literally just decided to jump a fence. I just rode him like it was fine. I didn't try to stop him anything. We just jumped a 6-foot fence for no reason. And then I thought it was fun and I made him jump more. So you never know. Like, well, you know, you would think I would be really mad. I thought I would be mad if I said, oh, your horse is going to go jump a fence today. I would be like, he better not. But when he did it, we were having so much fun. I was okay with it. So what's kind of interesting in history and real people's lives is you might think they have one reaction and the research tells you they have a different reaction. When they're actually in the moment, when they're actually having those chemicals that I think some of the funnest stories to tell are when, like, I love comedy for that, right? When you think the reaction is going to be anger and they laugh at it, or that you think they're just going to laugh because they always laugh and then they're angry. So I think stories where the reaction is unique can make the best History Day projects this year, because you'll have so much fun exploring, why do we as humans make those reactions? Because we have this perception that we're going to react one way. The other thing is you're going to work with a whole group of people. So that means not all of them are going to react or feel the same way. And that is, hi, Julie, that's what makes your topic so great. So for example, Julie, in your topic, when we're talking about kins and arrows, we're going to get into the reactions. The reactions aren't just how more and more people had kinseys, but you can have the reaction of people who wanted women to have kinseys and then people who did not want that. So you want to have both perspectives inside the reaction. That would be a really easy place to put your multiple perspectives in your research. So you don't want to research just people who were on one side or the other. You want to try to find different people reacting. Women of Juarez, I think yours is going to be the hardest to find multiple perspectives because it's so sad. What thoughts do you have for that, Pop?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too, just because there's so much going on, especially with that topic. There's a lot of people that were involved. So it might be difficult to pinpoint which direction you want to go and what reaction you want to focus on.
And so as we research further, like, we want to leave that open so we can do more research. Alex, I think yours can be the most fun with reaction. I think there's people who hate NASCAR and people who passionately live and die NASCAR. And I think like putting them in crowds on both sides of your exhibit could be like really, really, really cool. So I love that idea.
Yeah.
I love this slide because it literally, I put in the word reform, just reform, and there threw up our friend Martin Luther. And I know you guys are all great students, so you had great 7th grade teachers. You remember that Martin Luther was the greatest religious reformer in the world. He would be an incredible, incredible History Day project. In fact, Esteban did him a few years ago. And you would start with the revolution that he realizes that what the church is doing in his time is horrible. And all the indulgences and not having freedom and how they're scamming the people. They're not letting them read the Bible. That was a major part, is keeping literacy from the masses. And he writes these 95 theses saying there's too much corruption. We have to overcome it. His revolution is putting the 95 theses up. The reaction is that the church tries to excommunicate him and kill him on multiple occasions. He has to run to Germany where he starts another church. And then the reform is not just that the church itself starts to change and fix its corruption, but there are new churches that form all across the world that are still exist today. And maybe even people in the chat are part of those religions. And if you're Catholic, you definitely experienced benefits from his reform. And if you're Protestant, your whole religion is kind of based on the reformer movement. So I thought that was really fun. Do you want to talk about any of the other symbols, Amanda?
I like the symbols with the documents, and like the one with the gear on it, and then the one with the what is it, the level, just because whenever I think of reform, I think of how things changed based off of the revolution and then people's reaction, and then the change that happened as what occurred from that. So rewriting laws, rewriting acts and things like that, just to make sure that that hopefully never has to happen again, to where we have to have a revolution start all over again. I really like those ones are speaking to me.
I like that too. I think about Jasmine's topic a lot, and I think about she's doing IDEA. The law itself is the reform. The IDEA is the reform. It's the bill that now gives wheelchair ramps, that allow house deaf interpreters in school, and gives us all the opportunity to learn sign language.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Like, so many things came out of that bill to create equality for all of us. So the strength of IDA is building to the reform itself. So different topics kind of have strength in a different piece, you know, a little bit different emphasis. Would you add anything else to that, Pop, before we go to these?
Nope, I think we hit it.
In the chat, before I go on, is there any questions about this year's theme, revolution, reaction, and then reform? I feel like pull up your one of the ones that could be great for this would be like Florence Nightingale or the Red Cross. The revolution is realizing that people are dying on the battlefields on both sides and they're not getting proper care. Mm-hmm. The reaction is for the women to go in and start providing that care. And then the reform is for both sides to acknowledge that and start helping and honoring, like the Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders would be such a great topic too. So those could be really kind of fun to do.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add those to the list, actually. Right?
Yay! All right. So I'm going to go to an entirely different slide now. Can you guys all see this slide?
Yeah.
Hopefully, let's see.
Yes, I can.
All right. And we're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of thesis writing. Okay. So do include the theme in our thesis. Do change it as you do research. Do write a preliminary thesis to guide your research. So the purpose here is it's going to guide our research. And as we research, we'll either prove it true or not. We'll make it deeper and more interesting. But I thought it would be really great to do a little outline of a thesis together. And then if you want to put your topic in, I'll try to help you write your thesis right now. And we can do a sample thesis together so that you can have just a very basic working of a thesis today, and you can watch me see how we do it. The first rule in writing a thesis for history is it's not persuasive. I'm not trying to convince you that the women of Juarez death is horrible. It was horrible, but I don't need to convince you of that. That's not my job as a historian. My job is to prove that it happened and to talk about why it happened, why that reaction happened against those women, and if the reforms themselves are effective. So we're analyzing the history. Why did the women, what happened to these women? What was the revolution that forced them off their farms? Then once they were forced into these factories, why were they so easily disappeared? Why did the police do nothing? Or did they do something? Is history lying about their role? What's this police's perspective? Why couldn't they save the women? Is it true that there's 600 of them missing, or is there more like 20 of them missing? And then after those reactions, let's look at the reforms that have been made in Juarez to keep those women safe. They say it's done in 2005. Is that true? Or are women disappearing in Juarez now? Is it still a problem today? So has the historic problem of disappearing women continued? So from Women of Juarez, for example, which I think is one of the most hard ones, that's why I'm kind of locking onto that one right now. Guatemalan genocide, Abner, is going to be very similar. You're going to look at what happened in the genocide. What was the revolution that changed it? How did we go from people just living their lives being fine to all of a sudden killing mass amounts of people? Julie, where did Kinsey start? How did we go to the revolution of every young girl in Hispanic, Mexican American culture having these beautiful quinceas? Where was this revolution of consciousness where people want to celebrate this? How far back does it go? Like, and we want to pinpoint when this change happened. So we're looking for like, when does the change happen? So in our thesis, to help us with this, to make it clean, we're just going to start with this. Okay. So our very first part of our sentence, and if you can just get this part down, we can make the thesis so easy. The very beginning, the first thing we know we need to write is the dates that we think it happened. So when did the change happen? So we're looking at a revolutionary change. So we're looking at what kind of changes are we looking at? The way people think about something, or should be the way people do something, like with a car, or anything about their daily life. So just when did that major change happen? I think those two things cover almost everything.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So when? So for example, I know my friends for Women of Juarez, I know they know their dates. I think it's like 1993 to 2005. So you can start off with from this date to this date, or on this date, like when is the first Kinsey that was ever held? Like that would be a great place to start. So we need to know in our research before we can write our thesis when this change happened. So our analysis is, how can we look at the judge and say, before this time, people were this way. After this time, people were this way. And it might be a year, 2 years, 5 years, or it might be a day. It might happen in a day. So the American Revolution happens with like 7 major causes. I teach that was a mindset shift over 3 years, but we could debate that. You could argue, nope, it happened, in this first battle. You could say after Bunker Hill, that was the official war. From then on, there was no going back, right? So as historians, it's probably easiest if you find a simple thing that says, after this happened, there was no going back. So there was a day in NASCAR, Alex, that was so cool that once people saw that, they were in. They knew it had to be more than just something, a hobby. They knew this was a lifestyle and they were committed. And so we need to find out when that happened. And just like we need to know when that happened, we need to know where, who, and why. So your thesis is going to tell me when the change happened, who was there, why they did it, and where that change was located. And those 3 things, these 4 things happen in the first 2 sentences of our thesis. And this is, of course, about revolution. So maybe we can help with that. We're first going to establish when the revolution happened, because we have a lot to do here. We have to do 3 key points. And sometimes in middle school, that's a lot just to do 1 point. So breaking it down is going to make it a lot easier. So then after we've proven that there was a change of consciousness, that now people love NASCAR, that now people are being murdered in the Mayan highlands, right? That now whatever happened, people are different than they were before. Now we get into multiple perspectives. So we're going to look at reaction. And the ballots of this part tell us not every person has the same reaction. So here you're going to find multiple perspectives. What do they think was going on? Some people literally thought the women of Juarez were being taken by aliens. That was a perspective that people had. Some people thought the U.S. government was killing them. Some people thought their Mexican government was killing them. So different people, like how are people seeing it different? You guys, this is really hard to say, but Abner, when you're researching the Guatemalan genocide, you will find people alive who actually thought that genocide was good because it benefited them. And as a historian, it's your obligation to show all sides. So you got to show the analysis from different sides, how different people saw it. So you also need to point out not just how they felt or saw it, their perspective, but also what was different. So for example, if my History Day topic was the American Revolution and I start at the Battle of Bull Run, then the reaction is that the British decide to send more troops. That's the reaction. And the Americans go back to the Continental Congress. They elect George Washington as their official commander, and war starts. So the reaction is it's an official war. Both sides get arms. Both sides get more military, and they come back. So that's what I'm going to do next is I'm going to explain how did the people act as a result? And this is where you do cause and effect. So Alexander, I don't know yours, but I want to. So I want to know, when NASCAR became really famous, where did it start? How did people change what they were doing? Did they quit their jobs? Just tell me how people reacted. Were they excited? Were they scared? Both? And then finally, you know what's going to happen. You're going to talk about reform. In NASCAR, how do they keep people safe? Maybe you're talking about a detail of a body in NASCAR where there were too many people dying. And you're not going to talk about all of NASCAR, but a body type or rules in NASCAR to keep people safe. So reform is going to be a law or a social moray. That's when, I don't ever remember how to spell moray. I'll call it a social norm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how to spell moray? I never remember.
No.
But it just means like the way you do things to make it safer, or not safer. Maybe it's worse. Maybe the reforms, they became more sexist or more, you know, it could have changed that. But how did the revolution cause society or politics or economics to change? Okay, and then using this, you can literally start your thesis. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so you can still see it. Is that okay? Can you still see that?
Maybe a little bit bigger.
Okay, a little bit bigger. I want to be able to help them. Who in the chat wants me to help them write their thesis right now? Do I have anybody who wants a thesis written? You got a taker? Tell me if you got a taker.
Not that I see yet. No one's.
No? These guys are crazy.
I know. I was like, she's in the mood for writing, everybody. Come on.
No, I'm in the mood to give you a sample thesis. Not that we'll keep it exactly, but you can use it as an example, huh?
Okay, Grace is in there. She's first. She said the woman of Juarez. So let's go ahead and maybe start there.
Throw those dates in. I think it's 90.
Everybody's coming in.
They're like, oh, we'd like a little help with that thesis.
Yeah.
We're going to grow it as our research grows, but let's get us a thesis. Okay. So we're just going to start with a really basic one. We know it's going to get better and we're going to edit it, but we just want to feel like we know where our research is going and what we're trying to prove. So I've worked with Grace a lot. We've talked about her Women of Juarez. She's reading 2 really great books. So let's kind of, based on what we know so far, write our preliminary thesis with all 3 parts in it that will guide us, and then we'll change it and make it better as we go. So here's where I would start. I would say can you, because I can't do both, can you read me in the chat? She should have helped me out with the date. I think it's 93, but it could be 96.
They haven't dropped a date.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah. Our group, if you're able to, please tell us the date that we're looking for so we can go ahead and fine tune that. And this is the Woman of Juarez.
Okay, so we've got to talk about the revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
From 1993 to 2005, the Women of Juarez Now, no promises on the spelling. We know I can't spell.
We can always fix that later. And then Grace said 1993 to 2005. We're correct.
Grace, you see that? You see, I listened to you, Grace. You see? A+, Steven. Okay, you could start with something simple like from 1993 to 2005. The Women of Juarez's lives changed drastically. Harsh economic conditions. That's their money. So for those of you who haven't worked with us, this situation in Mexico got so bad that the women were being forced off their farms. And they also had these really aggressive policies that stole land from the farmers. So harsh economic conditions. Coupled. That's a fancy word, Grace. It means combined with. You can use combined with if you would prefer, or if you want a big word, you could use amalgamated. I like the way coupled sounds here, so but feel free to change it. So write that down. You could use amalgamated or combined with. So harsh economic conditions coupled with laws which targeted Mexico's. I have no idea how to spell hacienda system. We've talked about it, but I don't think I've seen it. So please, that's not spelled right. Pop, maybe you can help me find that.
Wouldn't it be Hacienda? I'm
H-A-
thinking like Hacienda Heights, so that's what I'm thinking of.
Is it what?
Yeah, like that. Hasi. Put an E after the I think.
Okay. See, you have to love us for trying, guys, because we just
Yeah,
did
no E at the hacienda.
Okay.
H8. Oh my God.
See, like that? That looks wrong.
Yeah, it does look wrong. Hold on.
Girls, look up how to spell your word. Okay. Harsh economic conditions coupled with laws which targeted Mexico's hacienda system forced young girls from the comforts. Grace, I'm kind of channeling the way you write here. And Lily, she like that more literary feel. But obviously, you're going to rewrite it in your own words. This is just a draft, and we'll edit it.
Yeah. And then I found the spelling for hacienda.
Thank you. I don't know what they did in the factories. So, girls, if you can remind me of that, I don't think we've talked about that.
That's better.
I do. Thank you, spell check.
Yes. Where would we be without that?
Right? Okay. So they forced them from the comforts of their family farm into factories. And then we'll put the word in. So we got to get it in. So revolutionizing, right? Okay, so how did it drastically change? It changed where women worked. It went from working at home in the hacienda systems into being forced into factories in the system. That's a big change, right? It's a huge change in their daily life. They're no longer at home. They're now with other women in a factory. That's our revolution. Okay, so we'll say tragically. We might not want to have that judgment in there, but we'll use it as a transition because I think it'll help. Tragically, factory I'm going to put 600 because that's what we talked about today, but it might not be right.
Mrs. Stevens, with theses, have we gone over having multiple sentences to be in a thesis and it's okay?
Would you please go over that now? Thank you.
Sorry, I was just noticing this and I was like, I don't know if we covered this yet. I'm not too familiar with what we've been doing necessarily in the History Day classes, so I just wanted to double check. So as you can see, there is way more than one sentence there for the thesis. And also, just keep in mind, this is a working thesis. So this is our very first draft. So it can and probably will change as we continue to go ahead and do more research. So say, for example, for this over 600 women, that's what our main idea is for right now and what we've been able to go ahead and find. But during research, we might find that that has a bigger number, or maybe it's a little bit less. So we'll go ahead and adjust as we go. But keep in mind, theses do not need to just be one sentence. I think a lot of times whenever we're doing essays in school, we just have in our mind, it has to be one sentence and that's pretty much it. But they can go ahead and be a lot more sentences than that, as long as we're talking about the topic. And in History Day, National History Day competition, we're constantly coming back to the theme. In this case, this year, it's revolution, reaction, reform.
Yeah, so that, obviously, girls, we're going to make this better, but I thought you guys just watching me do one would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can see the formula, and then you can help each other. And, as we do more research, we'll pepper in better details. I'm going to shrink that just a little. Does that look okay, guys, from what your view looks like?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I have, and we can see if we can make it better. Okay, metal bars. There you go, Alex. You got it. You've got your thesis. That's good job. I'm really proud of you, Alex. Good job. Okay, so from 1993 to 2005, the lives of women in Juarez changed drastically. I don't like change drastically, maybe drastically changed or changed forever or rewrite in your own words. I think that could be better. Harsh economic, you could say revolutionized. You could say from 1993 to 2005, the women of War's lives would never be the same again, or something. Write it with your own flair. Harsh economic conditions coupled with or amalgamated with or combined with laws that targeted Mexico's hacienda system forced young girls from the comforts of their family farms into the factories, forever revolutionizing the role of Mexican women in the labor force. So that's really clear. It's a nice, like, this is what we're doing. So we've done the research on that part. So we kind of know exactly what we're arguing. Tragically, factory conditions were difficult, and unsafe travels to and from work meant that over 600 women disappeared. Girls, you might want to get more specific and aggressive there. We both know we could be a little more graphic, and I suggest that, but I want you to do it. I'm not going to do it for you. Families grieving the policy. Families grieving. And we went to the transition baby better there. The policy and local authorities did nothing. So let's change that. I think we could change this to Mexican policies are local and federal. Oh, I like local authorities. That's good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Local authorities did nothing to save the women.
Or protect.
Oh, I like protect. The vulnerable women.
Mm-hmm.
Or consult maybe their grieving families.
It's maybe where we can get some reactions too.
Yeah, because then we can get, there's that multiple perspective that this is always so hard to do. Mm-hmm. Again, Mrs. Stevens never claimed she could spell, she just claimed she could write. Those are different things. Until the reformations of, and then this is where our research, we have to do more research. We have to decide what reformation we're going to argue is what helped to keep them safe. So that would be the next piece to look into, is kind of in the big picture area. What do we think actually happened that ended the tragedy for the women? Why did they stop disappearing? Like what is it we want to talk about there? Okay, I hope that was like helpful. Now I just want to open it up to have Ms. Pop maybe ask questions or add comments about writing theses. And then in the chat, if you want to ask me to help you, we're here for 15 more minutes, and I'm happy to do others if you want me to take a stab at it. We could try a different format if you'd like. I could show you a different kind of thesis, or we can just write these nice big generic ones as we start our research, so that we're going to revise them. They're going to be yours, but this is a good way to kind of start, get our feet on the ground.
No, yeah. I think this is excellent. I really like how we broke down revolution, reaction, reform, and we have those little bullet points to go off of. I think that's going to really help shape it, especially whenever we have 3 parts of a theme this year. Last year it was rights and responsibilities. It's only 2. So it's a little bit easier, I think, to wrap our head around. But whenever you have 3 like this, it can get kind of overwhelming. So I really like how we broke it down today. One thing I will say, though, about theses, though, in a science aspect, we would probably call it more like the CER. Hopefully that sounds familiar to us. In case if it doesn't sound familiar, in science, we call it claim, evidence, and reasoning. So it's very similar to rates. If you're more familiar with rates, it's basically the same thing. We just cut it down a little bit more steps in science. So make a claim and stick with it, and you have to be able to argue that claim. So in this sense, since it's a historical piece, we're not going to be persuasive, but in science, you have to come in with hard, cold facts. Think of it like that. You need to go ahead and do the research to go ahead and back up your claim, which is your thesis, and you have to basically convince judges and other historians this is why. But that's all I had to say about that.
That was really good.
Thank you.
Going to jump on and try to get some details to help.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to help write 2 more. I'm going to want help do one on IDEA. Okay, so we'll do IDEA right now. You're going to have to keep feeding me information because I don't know all of your research. I only know the kids I was talking to, or that we bought some of our books, and so I'm not as familiar. So, but Ms. Populas also has internet. So between all of us here,
I'm on it.
Yeah. So we'll do another one, okay? So we talked about reaction first. So she said, oh, wow, we got a spinny thing, guys. Sorry. I don't know. I always learn from examples, so I really hope this is helping you guys kind of get the idea. Okay, this is what one can sound like. Let's try a different version of one. So we could do a little reverse first. We can have fun with our writing, right? We could say, I still like to start with the date. And I think she said the date was 1975. So
that is correct.
I love to get that date out of the way. We can revise it as we get closer to competition, but it's so nice to be working with something where like we know like what we're talking about. So we do something like from 1975 to the present. We're gonna do reform, reaction, and revolution. So we're gonna flip it this time, Jasmine, and see if we like it. Maybe we won't like it at all. But won't it be fun to see something a little bit different? And actually, we could do this with our Kinsey too and see if we like it. So to flip it, we'll go like this. I'm gonna delete that a little bit because it's a little too much for me. I think that should be a good size for you guys. Pop, is that right? Right.
Look, yep, that sounds good, or it looks good. Huh.
Ooh, how about something this simple? Ooh, I like like this. What about adding revolution? We could actually do revolution here in a simple from 1975 to the present. The laws created an IDA, revolutionized. Let's use this one as like a base one. Wow, that would be really revolutionized the lives of individuals. Now, I'm not sure all the individuals who were involved in IDEA. So,
Let me
and
see
we
if
want to be really careful about how we, I don't like have, it's wrong. Of individuals who experienced hearing loss, experienced disabilities, probably, including hearing loss, visual impairment. I think this is how I think we want to be really sensitive, make sure we get it all right, be as polite as possible.
blind was also, it goes on to other things as well, but I think those ones that you have are good.
Okay, since there's more and we can't get them all in a thesis, these are the ones that I want to do because she's doing a performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should like, let's say, including but not limited to. Does that work?
Yes.
Let's hit reform heavy because we knew she wanted to do reform. We had already talked about that being the strength. So we could say before the reforms of the IDEA Act, that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
That's what a law is called, guys. It's called an act. So look at that bill. I know we looked at it a little bit. It's called an act. Before the reforms of the IDEA Act, individuals suffering, experiencing, I think suffering's okay there. Okay, and then I think we'll learn about what those injustices are, right? We'll have to get, this one's a little generic right now, so we'll have to learn a little bit more, but I think it'll work as our first thesis. So tired of being treated unfairly. We have revolution once again. Should we focus on equal access to education, public facilities, and employment? I think those are all covered in IDEA. We have not checked the law, so we'll have to check that. The employment one is the one we haven't looked at. We looked at the others so far. research, but we haven't looked at that yet. Okay, so, and then you can say,
Yeah, from what I see, it's talking largely just about education, but if we can go ahead and put a swing on it in terms of like employment, obviously you need certain credentials that you can get from school and education. So that I think that would be able to slide.
I like her keeping it more narrow. Let's just make it education. She's doing a performance, and I think narrow is better. So I like that. Jasmine, tell me that this is yours, though, so you can tell me in the chat. But I feel like just us just focusing on school.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's look at that. This is where it becomes so interesting. This is where I think, all right, here, I'm going to read it and let's see if we like it. From 1975 to the present, the laws created for IDEA revolutionized the lives of individuals who experience disabilities. It shouldn't be past tense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Including but not limited to hearing loss, visual impairment, cognitive difficulties, and mobility issues. Before the reforms of the IDEA Act, individuals suffering from disabilities experienced injustice. Tired of being treated unfairly, they demanded equal access to education. Reactions to this legislation, I don't like that. Right? To this legislation vary, with many championing the bill as a necessary step for equality and equity and inclusion. And this is what Jasmine and I like about the bill. But Jasmine, I think we should put the alternate perspective at the end. So I added it. You don't have to keep it here in your thesis. I just wanted us to remember from our research, we've seen others have taken issue. Others have taken issue with the bill, citing it as a framework for division, arguing these values, specifically equity and inclusion, we talked about that, do not reflect the American landscape and that the bill represents government overreach. What do you think?
I think it's detailed. I think it's very specific. And yeah, you did nail it down to just education. And Jasmine wrote in the comments that she thinks just focusing on school would be better.
Since so many people are attacking IDEA, Jasmine wanted to do this because with the Department of Education being closed, right, we might lose this bill. Yeah. And since the bill might be lost, I think it's important to put that. I don't know that we need it in the end, but we could leave it now and then Jasmine will rework it. You need to make it yours anyway, but it's a good start.
Yeah.
In the comments, do you have any ideas for how I could revise it and make it stronger? I like it as the beginning point. We have a lot of research to do, but I feel like it tells us where we need to research.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, like what did they face? Who were the people? I'd love to put some names in.
Yeah, so, that one's a little harder to find. It just repeats that Congress is the one who enacted it in 1975, but I'm not finding any specific names. Like, did somebody bring it to them? Was it a group of people?
Jasmine, the way you find that, I want you to type in these words. Okay, this is how you research that. You research who sponsored the IDEA bill, who sponsored it. The sponsor of the bill will be your hero here. That's your champion. If you like the act, if you think the act is an overreach, that's your villain. But at least it's going to tell us who like the advocate was for it. Cool. Awesome. Good job. All right. So we're getting ready to wrap up. So I'll do one more for Vanessa and Julie if they're here. If not, you guys are great to like log off and tell us goodbye and stuff. I hope this helped. I hope we got at least 2 more theses done to start our, like, now we can start narrowing down our research and adding details and find out if these statements are even, I mean, we know this is what we want to argue, but now we have to find the evidence to prove, like, will this work? So thank you so much for joining me. If you're here, sign off so I can give you your talkies tomorrow, because that's important. Vanessa and Julie, if you don't have your research, I'd like to have a couple more days to do my own a little bit too, because our topic's so unique. And then we could come back when we have a little bit more research, if that's okay. I just know we don't want yours to be generic at all. That's my thinking on that.
Chat has gone quiet.
I know. They're like, you guys. They're like, you're still going to 8. What are you doing? Okay, we'll sign out with this. Just a quick reminder, your thesis is, Vanessa, your thesis need to be really specific. And I'll just put this back up so you can see this, because I think it will really help you. Okay, so we'll go back to this. Remember, you need to explain where the change happened. How did it change the way people thought about something or did in a big, drastic, important way? How do people react? And that's a great place for multiple perspectives, because people are different and they had different reactions. And then what was the reform? What was the change based on the reaction? So how did that revolution literally get codified into the way we live our lives? And with that, have an absolutely amazing day. You guys are the absolute best.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.